Right now, somewhere in Japan, there is a building staying cool in the middle of summer with no air conditioner running, no fans, nothing moving at all, because it is wrapped in a material that does something that sounds impossible. It takes the heat and throws it into outer space. I am not exaggerating, and I am going to explain exactly how that works. And then I am going to show you how to get most of that same effect on your own house for about $40, and finally turn your air conditioner off. My name is Richard Nakamura. I grew up in a Japanese house here in Ohio, and I spent 30 years as a repairman, hauling away air conditioners that had burned themselves out. So first, I will show you what this Japanese material actually does. Then the $40 way to copy it. And at the end, the one spot baking in your own yard that is making your air conditioner work twice as hard, and you have probably never looked at it once. So let me start with the material, because once you understand it, the cheap version makes sense. A company out of Osaka built a thin film, and that film does two things at once. First, it reflects almost all of the sunlight that hits it, about 95%, so the sun cannot heat it up in the first place. That part is not new. White paint does some of that. But here is the part that is new, and it sounds like science fiction. The film also takes heat and beams it away as infrared light, straight up through the sky and out into space. Space is cold, colder than anything here on Earth. And it turns out that if you build a surface the right way, it can pour its heat into that cold all on its own, with no power at all. The numbers are not small. Wrap a building in this stuff and the inside runs up to 18 degrees cooler. They tested it on a metal shipping container at a big Japanese factory, and the container with the film used 53% less air conditioning. Half. The walls out in the sun ran 15 degrees cooler to the touch. No wires, no electricity. It just sits there and quietly sends the heat back to the sky. Now here is the problem you are living with instead. Heat does not really sneak into your house through the cracks. It pours in as sunlight through your windows, your walls, your roof, and your air conditioner spends all day fighting heat that already got inside. You are paying every month to chase out heat you let in for free. You spray money at it, and it is back tomorrow, because the sun is back tomorrow. You cannot walk into a hardware store and buy that space film yet. But you do not have to. The physics is simple, and you can copy it for about $40. It comes down to 3 moves. Reflect the sun, shade it out, and let the heat escape. But stay with me, because I did not learn this in a laboratory. I learned it from my grandmother and from 30 years of dead air conditioners. When I was a repairman, I must have hauled away a few hundred dead units. And after a while, I noticed something the manufacturers never wanted to say out loud. Almost every single one of them had been sitting in the same place. Out in the open on the south or the west side of the house, cooking in the full afternoon sun, all day, every day, for years. The machine was not just fighting the heat inside your house. It was fighting the sun, beating down on its own body at the same time. It cooked itself to death. And then a man like me came and hauled it away and sold the family a new one. Now think about my grandmother. She grew up in a small fishing village in Japan, and when our family came over to Ohio, she brought her whole way of keeping a house with her. And in all the years I knew her, she never once owned a real air conditioner. She did not need one, because she did the exact opposite of what we do here. Here, when the house gets hot, we go buy a bigger machine to pump the heat back out. She never let the heat in to begin with. On the sunny side of the house, she hung screens on the outside of the windows. In Japan, they call them sudare, woven reed screens, and they catch the sun out there, in the open air, before it ever touches the glass. And in the evening, she would take a little water and throw it across the shaded ground and the step, and it cooled the air as it dried. Her house, with no machine at all, stayed cooler than the neighbor's house, with the unit roaring all day long. I asked her about it once, why she went to all that trouble, and she just said the word she always said when somebody was being wasteful. Mottainai. What a waste. What a waste, she said, to burn all that power fighting the heat, when you could have simply kept it outside in the first place. Now, you are not going to import Japanese reed screens, and you do not need to. The screens are not the point. The idea is the point. So let me show you the 3 cheap moves that copy that space film, and then the one sunny spot nobody ever shades, the one quietly doubling your bill. Here's what is really going on in plain terms. The heat in your house is mostly sunlight that landed on something and got soaked up. So you have 3 ways to win, and not one of them needs a single watt of power. The first move is to shade the sun out, and to do it on the outside. This is the one almost everybody gets backwards. People close the curtains on the inside and think they have blocked the sun. But by the time that sunlight has passed through the glass to reach the curtain, the heat is already in the room. The curtain just traps it there. You have to stop the sun outside before it ever hits the window. You do not need reed screens for that. Walk into any hardware store and you have 3 cheap choices. An outdoor roller shade that mounts above the window. A roll of garden shade cloth, the kind people throw over a greenhouse, which you can hang on the sunny side for almost nothing. Or a cheap outdoor roll-up blind. Any of them, $20 or $30. The material does not matter at all. What matters is that it hangs on the outside and catches the sun in the air. Put it on the windows that take the hard afternoon sun, the south and the west, and you will feel the difference in that room by the end of the day. The second move is to reflect, the same way the space film reflects. A dark surface drinks the sun and holds the heat. A light, shiny surface throws it back. So the hottest surfaces of your house, the west wall that bakes all afternoon, or the underside of your roof up in the attic, are exactly where a cheap reflective barrier earns its keep. A roll of reflective radiant barrier, the shiny foil kind, stapled up in the attic with a little air gap behind it, bounces the sun's heat away before your house can soak it up. On an outside wall, even a coat of light, reflective paint does the same job. That is the home version of what the film does. Not as fancy, same idea. The third move is the one my grandmother did, and it costs nothing. Water. In the cool of the evening, not the heat of noon, wet down the shaded ground and the pavement on the shady side of the house. As that water dries, it pulls heat out of the air. It is the same reason you feel cold stepping out of a pool. Do it at noon in the sun, and it just steams off, and does nothing. Do it at dusk, in the shade, and it quietly drops the air around the house a few degrees, right when you want to open the windows for the night. Now, you might be asking why nobody ever told you any of this. The answer is the same as always. There is no money in a $20 shade. There is no money in a roll of foil and a bucket of water. There is real money, good steady money, in selling you a $4,000 machine and then a power bill every single month for the rest of your life to run it. The whole business is built on you fighting the heat instead of keeping it out. The moment you keep it out, the machine and the bill mostly go away. There is a reason no air conditioning company will ever put this in a commercial. A house that stays cool on its own does not call them every August. And I am going to be straight with you about what this is and is not, because I would rather you trust me than be impressed. This works best where the heat is dry and the sun is strong. If you live somewhere brutally humid, it will help a lot, but it will not completely replace your air conditioner in the worst week of August. And the $40 version is not the lab-grade space film. But in a normal summer across most of this country, doing these three things will let you run that machine half as much, or shut it off entirely for weeks at a time. That is not nothing. That is most of your summer bill. And now, the thing I promised you, the one spot nobody ever shades. Go back to all those dead air conditioners I hauled away, the ones cooking in the sun. Your outdoor unit, that big metal box humming away beside your house, is almost certainly sitting in full sun right now. And here is what that does. The hotter that box gets, the harder it has to work to dump your home's heat, and the more it runs, and the faster it dies. It is fighting your house and the sun at the same time. So shade it. Not wrapped up tight, it needs to breathe, but give it a simple cover above it, or plant something tall on its sunny side, so it sits in shadow instead of full sun. A shaded unit runs cooler, uses less power, cools your house faster, and lasts years longer. It is the single cheapest thing you can do, and almost nobody does it, because nobody ever told them to look. So put it all together. Shade the sunny windows from the outside. Throw a reflective barrier on the hottest wall or up in the attic. Wet the shaded ground at dusk. And get that outdoor unit out of the sun. $40, one weekend, no power, and you have built yourself a slow, quiet version of a material that cools a building by sending its heat to space. I did all four on my own place here in Ohio a few summers back. I have barely touched the central air since. That is what I mean when I say a $40 afternoon replaced my air conditioner. So this week, before you turn that thermostat down again, walk around your own house and just look at where the sun actually hits. Which window takes the afternoon? Which wall is hot to the touch at 5 o'clock? Whether your outdoor unit is sitting out there baking. Then tell me in the comments where you live, what your summer cooling bill runs, and which side of your house takes the worst of the sun. I read every single one, and the things you all find out there teach the next person more than I ever could. Next time, I am going to show you the other half of this, the Japanese way to stay warm all winter without cranking the furnace, keeping the heat in instead of out. It is the natural next step after today. My grandmother used to tell me about Mottainai. It means nothing good should ever be wasted. Not the thing in your hands, and not the knowing of how to keep it.